Joining me now to discuss is Republican Congresswoman Mariannette Miller-Meeks of Iowa. She is on the Homeland Security Committee, and she was also part of a delegation of House Republicans who toured a detention facility at the border in Texas yesterday. Congresswoman, thanks so much for taking the time this morning.
It's my pleasure, Jim.
So, tell us what you saw down there.
Well, we first went into a processing facility. This is a new facility that's just a little over a year old. They thought that they would never see capacity to the numbers that they're seeing now. So their capacity is about 1,040, and yesterday they had already exceeded that capacity. Typically, the surge or the biggest volume of people coming across the border is in April and May, and this is in February. So they saw the biggest number of both unaccompanied minors, families, and then single adults coming across the border, and those are just the ones that they know that came through the facility. They process them outdoors because of COVID-19, but they're not tested for COVID-19. They have facilities for them to sleep. They provide food, clothing, diapers. They have a screening questionnaire for medical and temperature checks, but other than that, they're not testing for COVID-19.
I wonder, under the Trump administration, a number of mechanisms and systems that previously handled influxes of migrants, for instance, the asylum system, the Central American Minors Program, which reunites children from Central American countries with legal guardians or parents here in the States. They were dismantled. And I wonder, as you watch this now, do you believe it was a mistake to dismantle those systems?
That's a great question. I can tell you that the Border Patrol agents that we met with, all of them were very supportive of the previous administration's policies, and they think ending them has created this surge. They also told us that at midnight, these are their words, at midnight on January 20th, the wall stopped being built, including that portion of the wall that was already funded. So they have gaps, a 17-mile gap, and that with that new wall was also technology, and all of that has stopped. They're very supportive of the wall, the technology that went with the wall. So that was video sensors, that was sensors to detect motion, and also underground sensors that would detect tremors. All of those things were extraordinarily important. The Santa Teresa area of crossing that goes into the Santa Crista Mountains is a very important part. They think the wall needs to be extended up into the mountains. And what they see is there's a road that's right on the other side of the fence, and that they have large caravans and buses of people dropped off. They rush the fence, and then you see the cartels use that as a diversionary tactic to bring other things across the border. So they think those policies worked and should have remained in place, and they're very concerned about Title 42 going away, especially during a pandemic and COVID-19.
I do want to get to the wall for a moment, because I've also spoken to border experts, security officials who say that the wall, throughout the Trump administration was not the solution, but specifically to the issue of minors here, because the real change under the Biden administration, right, is to say we're no longer going to turn around unaccompanied minors, that we're going to put them through a legal process here rather than turn them around unaccompanied to go back home. I wonder, do you support reinstating that policy? In other words, turning unaccompanied minors away at the border again?
Well, I think if you look at it, we heard stories from the Border Patrol agents of one-year-old children being dropped off at the border with a sign or written on the back of their clothing a phone number for someone to call. A one-year-old child, unaccompanied, no adult, not knowing who is with them. And this is a huge money-making scheme for the cartels. Well, one, I think, is you send the message that the border is not open to anybody to cross. We shouldn't be encouraging minors to come across unaccompanied, families to send them. The Border Patrol agents we met with and the Border Patrol union members had indicated to us the amount of money that the cartels make in human trafficking. We don't know where these children go. We assume, HHS tries to do a good job of it, making sure that they're going to go to a community where there's a sponsor, but you don't know who that sponsor is. There's human trafficking, there's sexual abuse, there's sex trafficking. It is a huge problem at the border. And our Border Patrol agents are doing a phenomenal job in trying to take care of all of these individuals, but then they go to communities, and the communities don't even know that these individuals are arriving. They have no preparation. They don't know that they're there. They have communities who have lost revenue through the pandemic, and they're already struggling, and then you get an influx of minors or families.
No, I get that. And by the way, we've done a lot of reporting on this program about smugglers taking advantage of that. I'm just asking you specifically, What do you do with those children today? It's happening today. Do you shelter them, give them some health support as is happening now? Granted, overwhelming those facilities, and they're building more and adding more. Are you saying you want to turn them around from today? Is that the solution in your view?
Right now, what they're doing is to process these children, to try to process them through within the 72 hours, and then to, contact either their sponsor or an NGO in order to help facilitate these children getting to whoever it is that's on the phone number that's being called. So they're being processed in a humane manner. But let me also let you know that the Border Patrol agents we spoke with told us that they're using their operational budget for food, clothing, supplies for all of these children and families. That's coming out of their operational budget. Right. They don't have funding for this, and so that's eating into their budget going into this year. So there's not funding. So we need to fund the Border Patrol to be able to handle these families and these unaccompanied minors, to be able to take care of them, to be able to get them medical care when they need medical care. They're really doing the best that they can under, situations that are extreme to them. Remember, 120 Border Patrol agents are pulled off of monitoring the border, and so now you have people coming across on the watch terrorist list. They apprehended huge loads of fentanyl.
The terror watch list, actually, that point, let's set that aside for a moment. That's been debunked for years, even by internal documents from the DHS. But I do want to ask you,
that's what the agents told us when we were there.
Well, members of the relevant committees on the Hill have said they have not been briefed on that, and the president's claims during his administration were previously debunked on that issue. But for a moment, just set that aside. I can't
say what the president claims. I can tell you what the border agents told us, that they had just apprehended and taken into possession a large load of fentanyl. And so you have those coming
fentanyl,
across.
Yes, and from countries like Iran, but not known terrorists. I do want to ask you this.
They said they were on the terror watch list, sir. I'm sorry.
Well. DHS.
I'm just reporting to you what I was told at the border.
Understood. We'll check it out again. I'm just saying DHS under the previous administration admitted that was not true. But I do want to ask you about what happens now then. Are you willing to sit down at the table with Democrats who still control the House to trade on this? Would you trade, for instance, more border security for protection, say, for Dreamers, which is a proposal Lindsey Graham has suggested? Is there a deal to be made here, or is it just going to be accusations going back and forth?
No, I think certainly there needs to, the immigration system has been broken for decades. This is not a new problem or new issue. And I think certainly there is willingness to enhance border security and also look at immigration. And as you mentioned, looking at the Dreamers or DACA, and how do we do that? One of the issues with DACA, in my view, was that it was through executive order, not through legislation. So certainly I am more than willing to sit down with members of both parties in order to hammer out how we can address border security, how we can help our Customs and Border Patrol agents there at the border now, doing a tremendous task of processing and protecting us and protecting our national security, and then also addressing people who came here when they were young through no fault of their own. And I think that there is willingness to work in a bipartisan fashion to address this.
Hey. That's great. Let's keep up that conversation, because you may have identified a path right there, and we're always trying to highlight on this program and elsewhere ways where maybe the two sides can get together. Congresswoman, we do appreciate you joining the broadcast this morning.
And thank you for having me on, and have a great day.